Without a doubt, one of the best parts of a new Super Smash Bros. Game's release is the speculation of what new characters are going to be included in the roster of the game. But recently, it's become much more difficult to try to predict who the final two characters are going to be in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's Fighter Pass. And I think the difficulty surrounding this is a testament to just how good the character roster in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is. Nearly all of the highly requested characters coming out of the release of Smash 4 were included in Smash Ultimate, characters like Ridley, King K. Rool, and more. Most of the big Nintendo icons that fans have been requesting for to be included in the game have already been implemented into the roster, and the ones that have not been are already included in other roles in the game, such as assist trophies, for example. So in this video, I'm going to try to predict who the final two DLC characters for the game are going to be. But just to make sure that the characters that I'm predicting within this video do actually have a chance of being included in the game, I'm going to try to stay away from ones that likely won't be in, because they're already included in another role in the game, such as assist trophies, as I previously mentioned, or a character who's a spirit, for example. It'd be a little bit redundant to have a character be both a spirit and a fighter, so I'm going to try to stay away from them. We don't have definitive proof yet that a spirit can't be included as a fighter, but for now I'm just going to assume that they're not going to be. I highly encourage you to leave some characters you'd really like to see in the roster of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as the final two fighters in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get started. First, I'd like to point out that all three characters that we've gotten revealed as DLC for Smash Ultimate so far are third-party characters, and this is something that we have to kind of keep in mind when predicting them. If we're going to assume that assist trophies and spirits cannot be included as fighters within the game, then the majority of the characters we have to pick from are third-party characters. This is because almost every prominent Nintendo character has been included as a spirit in the roster of Smash Ultimate. There are some exceptions, but the majority of them are. However, very few of the major third-party icons are included as spirits in Smash Ultimate, so that leaves us with an opportunity to have those characters be potentially included in the roster without interfering with the content that's already in the game. There are various companies that are contributing to Nintendo for third-party characters in Smash Ultimate, but one company that we have not seen yet is Insomniac Games. I'm going to be going over two potential characters from Insomniac within this video that could potentially be included in Smash Ultimate, the first of which being Crash Bandicoot. Crash was a very prominent character on the PlayStation, with his original trilogy recently being remastered, and then a year after its original release on the PS4 has been ported to the Nintendo Switch. Recently, Crash Team Racing, another game featuring Crash Bandicoot as the protagonist, has been released on the Nintendo Switch as well. So it seems like this idea of Crash being a Sony exclusive character has slowly faded away. Crash is being included on multiple consoles now, including Nintendo's. So I guess the possibility is there for Crash to be included in Smash. There's so many interesting possibilities for Crash Bandicoot's moveset as well. In terms of likelihood overall, I do think Crash does have a decent chance of possibly being included in the roster of the game. However, I do think the next character that I'm going to be talking about might have a slightly higher chance. This character is the other Insomniac character that I was alluding to earlier. This is Spyro the Dragon. The original Spyro trilogy was remade and was announced during E3 to be coming to the Nintendo Switch. By the way, could we talk about that for a second? Nintendo just subtly dropped the Spyro remastered trilogy and their compilation of games that are going to be coming to the Switch like it was nothing. I thought this could have used a full trailer, but I'm just very glad to see it coming to the Switch anyways. And I do think this trilogy coming to the Nintendo Switch is very significant because Spyro, like Crash, was mainly on PlayStation. And now, with it coming to the Nintendo Switch, it really shows that Spyro does have a possibility of being included in Nintendo's main fighting game. But unlike Crash, Spyro does have more appearances on Nintendo consoles in the form of the Skylanders series. I think the Skylanders series is pretty much dead now, with the Toys to Life thing slowly fading away. Nintendo's still going relatively strong with the amiibo, but it's nowhere near the popularity that it originally had when they debuted. But Nintendo fans were originally exposed to Spyro by Activision inserting him into the Skylanders series. They originally tried to drum up some popularity for the games by having a character who was already recognizable by many gaming fans included inside of it, and while many detested the inclusion of Spyro in the Skylanders games, it has sort of grown the popularity of the character, even if some believe that it tarnishes his reputation. Spyro has many aspects of his moveset already built in, with the flight mechanics obviously working out for a good recovery, and the fire breath being a component that he could use in his moveset. While some believe Crash to be more likely than Spyro to be included, I think that Spyro has a higher chance. Let's move on to another third-party company right now, and Microsoft has already shown that they're willing to include characters into Super Smash Bros. Who knows if we're actually going to get just one, or potentially two. Banjo-Kazooie were revealed at E3 to be the first Microsoft character, but another Microsoft rep was actually rumored beforehand as well, this being Steve from Minecraft. A few years ago, Minecraft was the most popular thing ever. It was a massive success for a game, and it's still going relatively strong to this day. With Steve being the protagonist of the game, I could definitely see him included in the roster of Super Smash Bros., and there will be a lot of people who are interested in his inclusion. When I made videos before the reveal of Banjo and Kazooie for Smash Ultimate speculating if Banjo or Steve would be the Microsoft rep, and I sort of went with Banjo as the more likely idea for a rep, I got a lot of comments saying that Steve is very popular and would probably hit home more with a modern day gaming audience. There's a lot of people that were younger and didn't grow up with Banjo and Kazooie, and they grew up with Steve in Minecraft instead, so they'd love to experience Steve again in Smash Ultimate. Crafting, placing blocks, firing arrows, there are so many interesting aspects that can make Steve a really cool character to play in Smash Bros. Also, since these DLC characters come with a stage, I'd love to see what the Minecraft stage is like. This could be a very unique and weird inclusion in the roster of Super Smash Bros., but I could see it happening. Nintendo may want to do more than one Microsoft character. Let's move from Microsoft to Bethesda, a company that Nintendo has been partnering with more frequently recently, and one of the main franchises that Bethesda has is Doom. With the modern day version of the game Doom already coming to the Nintendo Switch and Doom Eternal announced to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, I think that Doomguy could be a very interesting character to include in the roster of Smash. If Nintendo really wants to cement this partnership with Bethesda a little bit more and get some more hardcore and edgy characters into the roster of Super Smash Bros., I definitely think the protagonist from Doom would be a great idea. The run and gun shooting components of the character could be implemented well into the roster. It would be a nice contrast to Samus, who kind of has a similar looking design, I guess. But Doomguy would also have some similarities to Konami's Snake, because he's more of an edgy character being included in the roster of Super Smash Bros. There were rumors that I've covered in the past of Doomguy possibly being included in the roster of Super Smash Bros., but who knows if they've actually held up. Nowadays, there's so many rumors that contradict each other surrounding Super Smash Bros. That it's hard to tell which ones are actually real and which ones are fake. Another third-party company that Nintendo's really been partnering with a lot recently is Ubisoft, and I think there would be one rep from Ubisoft that would make a lot of sense to include in Super Smash Bros. Rayman. Yeah, we could put a character from Assassin's Creed or the Just Dance guy or a rabbit in the roster of Super Smash Bros., but Rayman would really hit home with a lot of Western gaming fans who've experienced the games. I don't believe that Rayman's as popular in Japan, and that probably hurts his chances a lot of being included in the roster of Super Smash Bros., but there's a lot of people over here that have heard of him. And since Nintendo is including the protagonist of Dragon Quest in the roster of Super Smash Bros., maybe they'd want to throw the fans in the West more of a bone by putting a character that they recognize a lot more in the roster of the game. Rayman would be a very unique inclusion. His games are platformers, and you could probably include those jumping aspects and the moves that he uses within those games into his moveset. And since the characters that are included in the roster of Super Smash Bros. Get amiibos after their inclusion, I'd love to see what Rayman's amiibo would look like, because all of his limbs are not attached to each other. Are they just gonna have to use clear plastic to attach all of them? That would be really funny to see. The last two third-party characters that I want to talk about both come from a company who has already contributed into the roster of Super Smash Bros. Being Square Enix. A very popular request from Square Enix nowadays is Sora from Kingdom Hearts to be included in the roster of the game. If you search up some of the most popular character requests to be in the roster of Smash Ultimate, Sora is definitely up there. Kingdom Hearts has grown a very big following recently, with it including so many Disney characters that are recognizable from kids and adults alike, and then including Sora as the protagonist of the game allows for a unique character to be included alongside the rest. And since Sora is the protagonist of the Kingdom Hearts games, I definitely think that it would make sense that if you're going to include a Kingdom Hearts character, it would have to be Sora. There's so many cool looking attacks that Sora uses in Kingdom Hearts, especially Kingdom Hearts 3, that would be really nice to see in Super Smash Bros. Now, we've had no real signs that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be coming to the Switch, so I guess that could diminish his likelihood a little bit. But then again, Cloud is the protagonist from Final Fantasy VII. We haven't got any announcement that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be coming to the Switch, and when Cloud was originally included in Smash 4, we didn't even have the original Final Fantasy VII on the console, but we do now on the Switch. So having Kingdom Hearts 3 on the Nintendo Switch may not be the biggest priority to get Sora included. The other character from Square Enix that I wanted to talk about is Chrono from Chrono Trigger. This game may not be as popular nowadays, but it was pretty popular when it released, and it's sort of a cult classic. Many consider the DS version of Chrono Trigger to be the best version of that game, so it would be a nice callback to include the protagonist of that game in the roster of Super Smash Bros. There would be so many people very excited at the prospect of Chrono being included in Super Smash Bros. All the moves that he could use in Smash Bros. That would draw from the original game would get fans very excited. However, this would be for a DLC character, and considering that for most of the DLC characters, you're going to try to get characters who are more popular nowadays included in the roster of the game because you're going to want people to go out and buy them, it may not be the best idea to include a character from a game that many people just haven't heard of into the roster. Maybe for a base roster in the next Smash Bros. Game, Chrono could be included, but for DLC, he's probably not very likely. I'm gonna end this video with 2 possibilities for Nintendo characters that could be included as DLC. I spent the majority of this video talking about third-party characters, and I know some of you guys aren't too familiar with these third-party characters, but the fact that all of the DLC characters included in Smash Ultimate so far have been third-party makes me feel that they're probably going to focus mostly on them. Let's start with the possibility of a Pokemon from Generation 8 being included in the roster. Pokemon Sword and Shield are generating some controversy right now with the lack of National Dex being included in the game. It's not really a big deal to me that National Dex is being removed from these games, but I could understand how some people get really upset about it. However, one thing that I think would really unite Pokemon fans is the announcement of a Generation 8 Pokemon being included in the roster of Smash Ultimate. We got Incineroar included as a Gen 7 rep, and I think a Gen 8 rep would be really cool. Potentially one of the starters could be included in the roster of the game, but I think Corviknight would be a very unique addition as well. It's a really edgy looking bird Pokemon and it'd be unique from the rest of the Pokemon included in the roster. Of course, we'll have to wait to see more Pokemon that are announced for Sword and Shield in Generation 8, and maybe there's going to be some that are better choices than the ones that I've already listed, but I do think that a Gen 8 Pokemon does have a chance, considering that there's nothing about Generation 8 currently in Super Smash Bros. The final character idea that I'm going to be going over here might piss some of you off, but hear me out on this. This character may be a Fire Emblem Three Houses representative. Now, I know a lot of you are really upset about Fire Emblem characters in Super Smash Bros., how there's too many of them, but I think the root of the problem, and I've focused on this in detail in a previous video, is that it's not really Fire Emblem characters that's the main problem. It's that most of the Fire Emblem characters have a very similar moveset. There are different weapon classes in Fire Emblem that I think you could draw from and would provide a more unique character instead of having the vast majority of them be swordsmen. So if Nintendo wants to promote Fire Emblem Three Houses through Super Smash Bros., I think it would be a really good idea for them to include a character that's more unique, but will probably just likely get Byleth because he's the protagonist of the game. A house leader would probably make some sense as well, such as Edelgard, Dimitri, or Claude. Why I think a Fire Emblem Three Houses rep has a chance is because Corrin was included as DLC in Smash 4, so it does show that Nintendo is willing to add Fire Emblem characters as DLC. Fire Emblem has grown to be a pretty big Nintendo franchise and they're supporting it a lot with a new character's inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Those are just some ideas that I have for characters that could potentially be added as DLC into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But who do you think could potentially be added as one of the 2 characters into the roster of the game? Let me know in the comment section down below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I have more Smash Bros. Content linked for you on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.